But now, Ron, you knew the date that he was here. Were you involved with Skip and a lot of
I was helping. I was working here at the university at the time, and I was helping Skip with the concerts and the speaking engagements. So I got my picture taken with him also in the locker room, talk with him a little
Dr.
bit.
Martin was there, and first thing he said, Dr. Martin, was, when's your contract expire with the LA Rams? Dr. Martin's a big man. He went right into, he was always on his shtick or something, and they got along great and had some good pictures. But he was, and I had pictures made with him, and I'll admit it, and that's the only one I ever did of all the entertainers. I won't get them from my wife or my daughter, but with him, I got one. I showed you the picture. And I sent them to him, and he sent them back. You know, thanks to the memories and that part. And Dr. Martin had some done, and that was the same way. But
he was a very cordial fellow.
But you had a story about another notable speaker, which was John Wooden.
Coach John Wooden. Skip had him in to speak, and after he spoke, we went over to Frisch's, the three of us, to have dinner. And I was telling him about my coach in high school, Coach Jim Eby, my football coach. I didn't go out for football until I was a sophomore in high school. And he gave me a little thing, I've got it here with me. I showed it to you. It's called Pyramid of Success. And he had a great big one in his office. I've been carrying that all those years, and when I was telling Coach John Wooden what that meant to me, he said, I wrote that in 1938. So I got him to sign that for me that night, and I still have it. But it was really neat that was very powerful. My coach liked that. He gave it to me at that time, and to be sitting there and for him to say, well, I wrote that in 1938.
Skip, going back to your Dean of Fun job, you got a chance to work with several generations of EKU students. Say a little bit about what that was like working with students, and maybe a little bit how they changed over the years.
Well, probably the biggest change of all the students, probably their dress, or lack thereof, or whichever. Actually, I mentioned earlier about how fast it goes at time flies. I never have noticed a big difference in the students now. I think the students' issues and problems they've had to have to address to come to college change a whole lot. But the students themselves, they want to get an education. They're here. Some of the changes they've had, what they've been exposed to, has changed a lot. MTV, all the other things they have, and all the things that they have. As far as the general student, they want to better themselves. They want to get a good job. They all talk about things, and you know, they want to get a good job, and they want to, and that part they want to make a lot of money. Ever since they were in the 70s, they still want to make a lot of money. That's another one thing they want. And I do notice now that the students, even with the orientation class, there's a little more instant gratification, I think, in our current students. Before, our generation in the 60s and 70s, there was a work ethic, a little stronger work ethic, and I think that when I talk to the parents at orientation nowadays, I talk about how much they hover, the helicopter, and even the difference is the students now would allow their parents to take their tests for them. I mean, that's the part because they've been coddled so much. And that's probably the biggest difference. Really, the core, though, is still the same. Our role is we're still a school of opportunity. We can paint us any color we want to, but you know, the power of maroon, as the president calls it now, but our core is still a school of opportunity. And I think many times they give even the ones that don't know why they're here, that second chance. And that's still our core, and we're still a teaching institution, and that makes a significant difference, I think.
I wanted to ask you, Skip, about, you mentioned a couple of other your role models. Hanley Funderburk is one, and Jeanette Crockett. Say a little bit about those two people. And
Jeanette and I were in the same student affairs, and she was at the time eventually became Dean of Women after Dean Engel left. She became Dean of Women. There was Dean of Women, Dean of Men. We don't have that model anymore, but she was. And I was director of student activities. And we were very close. I mean, she kind of took me under her wing. She's only a few years older than me. She won't admit that now, and she was always a straight shooter. And one of the first women, Dean Engel's a pretty tough, but Jeanette was the first woman that really had some serious clout and didn't take any crap from anybody. I mean, she really didn't. But she was as kind-hearted as a person, and I learned a lot from her. A lot of our conversations, she had reined me in quite a bit. Even though I didn't work for her, we were peers basically on the administrative chart. But when I was having a downtime, you know, she could kick me back up, and when I'd make mistakes, that part of it. But she's always a good friend. We'd have lunch a couple times a week, or talked a lot. But she was just there, and you know. And when she retired, several years before I did, I mean, it was really hard on me internally. It's the way it goes, but that part, and we were really just good friends, and we still have contact. She was great for the students. She was one of the first true advocates for when at residence halls for change, and stuck to her guns. She had her facts together, and she well respected. The kids loved her. That part, she was someone to emulate. And Dr. Funderburk, when he came in, let's see,
85.
85, he was there 13 years. I still work with orientation, so my relationship with all the presidents has always been kind of like Dr. Martin. They're just presidents, and they come in, and I work with orientation, and they said good jobs. And I work with orientation, so we started with Dr. Funderburk and had some discussions of the freshman picnic. And so he would have the freshman picnic the first day they come in, and they'd come with where we did with his day, he'd come in by the back door of Blanton House and come out, and we'd have a picnic in the yard. And he'd come in that little side door by the garage and shake all their hands and come through. He'd be in a suit, and Miss Fun would be there. The kids come casual in that way. So it evolved now where we have in the backyard picnic, and they come, and it's real casual. Dr. Funderburk was the kind of administrator, even though he's physically conservative, he always got all the facts. If there was an issue going on, he talked to everybody about the facts. He made an intelligent decision based on the facts, not on who got to him first or who got to him last. Mm-hmm. He did on the facts. He got all the parties involved, maybe not together, but he draw it all together. And I've always affirmed the action that presidents always have more information than the rest of us, and I just hope they always make good decisions with that information they have. But Dr. Funderburk was one I learned from him about getting not so much consensus, but getting the facts together.
I wonder if there's I don't have a very good question ready here, but if you see any parallels between Dr. Martin and Dr. Funderburk in terms, they both kind of had the persona of being distant, but they really weren't. Both personable, both fair and kind, and
they were. And the thing about it is, they were approachable, but you had to take that first step. Dr. Funderburk they were both basically shy people. I think what you just said, you better have your facts ready. Yeah,
when you
do.
When
he'd ask you a question. Dr. Martin, he'll ask you a question. You're going to be prepared. Dr. Funderburk too. I mean, I didn't always. I came out a lot of times wondering what happened or what it was, but he'd done his homework. A lot of times he never asked a question, and I learned from that too. I very seldom ask a question I don't know an answer to, mm-hmm. and he very seldom asked a question he didn't have the answer to get it all together.
Especially if it was about money.
And Dr. Martin was pretty autocratic. It's probably very difficult for him to be a president in today's time. Matter of fact, it'd probably be impossible. But at the time, they were the right men for the time. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Funderburk's thing was fiscally responsible. Conservative, rather, fiscally conservative, I'd say, but he had priorities. It wasn't like he was just tight. Which everybody said he was tight, but he had a pretty good reserve when Dr. Kutcher came in.
Well, Dr. Funderburk, and coming from the faculty, I appreciated him because his major priority was raising faculty salaries. And
the benchmark.
By the time that he left, we were up at the top, and we'd been way close to the bottom. And in terms of Kentucky regional universities.
Mm-hmm. And I know many people think that he was hard on athletics, but my opinion is that he in his mind, he knew where they were in the university, and he was only going to put so much forth for it. Mm-hmm. And but he supported. He went to the games. He went to basketball. He supported it that way, but he just wasn't going to write a blank check.